Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday night. I hope everyone has a drink in hand and is kicking off the weekend with some real estate talk. Good. My name is Lisa Holler. I'm on the Scott Klein team at Compass. We specialize in Brooklyn real estate. I live in Greenpoint with my husband and 2 children. And I can definitely say, and I want to introduce Paul Hyun, my teammate and co-host of Outgrow the Boroughs. This is a series that we do highlighting places that Brooklynites tend to migrate to. Tonight we're focusing on Westchester. And, I think, really the last 2.5 months have really just made everyone reevaluate what home is. Now it's so much more. It is an office, it is a school, it is a playground. And for some people, that means transitioning from renting to buying in Brooklyn. We have seen an uptick in activity in the last couple of weeks, for sure. Buyers are active. A lot of things are coming on the market. Paul and I just put something a listing in contract yesterday, and we had 2 solid backup options. So I would say things are back on. But for some people, I think this really sped up their timeline to what is next. And a lot of those people are thinking about the suburbs. And Westchester has long been a place that Brooklynites migrate to, but it is a big area. And so we wanted to really partner with a very knowledgeable agent who knows the area and who can break it down and give people the info they need. We're partnering with Gregg Goldschall. He is a Larchmont native, but also has lived in the city, so he's made the migration to the burbs himself, so he knows what it's like. Gregg is just a great guy, very knowledgeable in all of the towns. I'm going to really pass it off to him, but I will be, asking Gregg some questions throughout. But if you have any questions yourself, you can just type them into the chat, and towards the end, we will make sure that they get answered. So with that, I will pass it off to Gregg and take it away. You're on mute.
It's not that hard, right? Just to press that button. Hello, everyone. I'm Gregg Goldschall. Let me thank Lisa, Scott, and Paul for hosting the call. Very excited to be here, yet depressed that we're all here on Friday night on Memorial Day weekend. So try to make it as fun as possible. A little bit about myself, like Lisa said, born and raised in Larchmont. Then moved to the city, spent 10 years in the city. And West 84th Street was my last home, my best home. When it came time to think about buying something, my wife swore she would never leave the city. And I said, honey, do you want to live on 114th Street and Riverside, where we can't even afford it, or do you want to buy a house? So we came up to see a couple houses in Larchmont and slowly got her to love it and moved back home here in 2003. Have been in real estate in Larchmont since 2008. So I started during the first recession, which was awesome. And here we are during some tough times too. And thought I could share just a little bit about my experience in Westchester and what we're seeing in the marketplace and what's happening. So why don't I just start? I'm going to share my screen with you. And this is not the slide I wanted. Hold on. So I'm not sure how many of you kind of know Westchester. Here's New York City. So from where I am here in Larchmont, it's a 35-minute train ride. So from Pelham Manor, if you kind of just go up and follow my mouse around, to maybe Irvington. This is all like a half hour from New York City. So we're divided. One side is the Long Island Sound, where I am. Then you have central Westchester, which is Scarsdale, Bronxville area, right there, White Plains. And then the West Coast, the west side, is the Hudson River, the river towns. So Tarrytown, Irvington, Dobbs Ferry, Hastings-on-Hudson, etc. So this is all Connecticut up here. So Westchester is a little carve out. And even though I'm right here, you know, Ossining is like, for me, it's like 3,000 miles away. So kind of like the Upper West Siders know the Upper West Side. You know, everyone kind of stays in their own hood. So with that said, let me switch back to myself. I'd rather talk. So state of the market right now, like how are things doing here? Lisa said it's moving in Brooklyn, and things are flying and moving in Westchester as well. There's, especially in the rental market right now, we do pretty well with rentals around Larchmont because we have the French American school. So we have a lot of options here. But right now there's just, everybody wants to either come and buy, or if not come and buy, come and try it on for size for a year. So rentals are going sight unseen, moving really quickly. And houses for sale, inventory has been pretty low, as you can imagine. So, you know, we're seeing high demand. We're seeing a lot of buyers getting pulled forward. So I think people who were thinking of buying in the next year or two are now moving up their timeline. So there's a good amount of people who are thinking about buying, and with inventory low, I think that's going to keep prices kind of stable where they are. So,
Greg, do you want to kind of give an overview of maybe the 6,
yeah,
kind of like what differentiates Larchmont from Rye and so on, and kind of what draws people to each area?
Sure. So let me just pull up some of the towns here. All right, so starting with Larchmont, you know, one of the best features about Larchmont is the water here. Like I said, we're on the Long Island Sound. So this is a view from Manor Park, which is great. So it's a big public park that everyone's walking in now, especially. And right here is Manor Beach. When you live in Larchmont, you get to go to Manor Beach for a couple $100 for the summer. There's a locker, there's beaches over here that you can't see. Swimming, you know, beach, family friendly, lots of great activities.
Greg, is that the beach club that you're referring to?
No, this is Larchmont Manor Beach. This is kind of like the town beach.
Okay.
So we have Larchmont Manor Beach, which you join when you first come here. It's kind of a low frills beach, but really fun. They have like family Friday nights on the beach. Everybody brings their alcohol and food, and they have hot dogs, and there's a band there sometimes. So everyone hangs out there, and it's great for the kids. After a couple of years, you can join one of the beach clubs if you want. So there's 2 in Larchmont. There's the Larchmont Shore Club, there's the Larchmont Yacht Club more for sailors. Those are membership clubs that, you know, once you're here for a couple of years and know people, you know me, I can put you forth to be a member there. And that's a little more involved, and it's beach, pool, tennis, lots of alcohol. So, but it's great for the kids, not the alcohol. But the clubs are great because the kids can run around and the parents get to hang out. So it's a built-in babysitter. So Larchmont is, there's a couple parts of Larchmont. The village of Larchmont is 1 square mile. And, you know, it's a very walkable town. It's a very chill, relaxed town. We have 2 churches. We have 2 temples. We're 30 minutes from the city. We have a lot of good parks, on ball fields. and we're a walkable town. So I know people, love the Sunday or want to walk to go grab your coffee. You can do that here, depending, it may be a little bit of a further walk than you're used to. But there's a lot of good houses like right around town. So our schools, there's 4 elementary schools, which depending on where you live, that's how it's decided on which one you're going to. Some slight variations to each school, but all very good. They all dump into middle school, Homix Middle School. That's 6 through 8. So I have 2 daughters, one in 5th grader graduating at Murray, and an 8th grader graduating at Homix. The graduation is going to be a honkathon parade car tour. So we'll have to make do with that this year. It's about 6,000 people in the village of Larchmont. The average home price is about 1.4, but that's, that you can buy a $5 million home, you can buy a $700,000 home. So I have a lot of listings. I have a listing on now. I have a 2-bedroom cottage on for $590, and I have a new construction on for $3 million. So it kind of runs the gamut. Sweet spot here, though, if you want 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, is probably going to run you about 1.4, 1.5. Taxes are roughly 24,000 per million. So you buy $1 million house, your taxes are roughly 24,000. So let me just show you another town. A little further up the line is Rye. Rye, New York. I mean, they have a great downtown. I'm a little jealous of their downtown, to be honest. It's kind of got a Hamptons feel to it. Nice little windy tree-lined street. A lot of good restaurants. Rye is a little bit more spread out versus Larchmont. You're not really walking to the train station in Rye. You're gonna have to drive. It's hard to get a permit.
Greg, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm still looking at Larchmont. I don't see Rye.
No? Oh, wait. I switched it. Here we go. Sorry. You should see it now. Sharing is paused. Oh, hold on. Let me try and share. I'm going to stop sharing. Hold on. I'm going to reshare my screen, okay? Here we go. Okay.
I still see Larchmont.
It's moving. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, shoot. You see that?
I see the map.
All right, here we go. I got it. Okay. So Larchmont, moving on to Mamaroneck. So Mamaroneck is in the same school system as Larchmont, but it's a bigger city there. So there's about 20,000 people in Mamaroneck. Again, it's near the water. Their main street is kind of a bigger feel to it. There's a yellow line down the middle of the main street there. So it's a bit larger. They have a lot of really good restaurants right there, though. And their school, again, is we're part of their school system. So you have Mamaroneck and Larchmont are all part of the same school system. It's just a little bit more of a city feel to the town versus Larchmont, which has a smaller town feel. And then real quick, Rye, as you can see here, like I was saying, beautiful downtown winding street. Kind of a one main street there, so it's got a Hamptons feel to it. A little bit more spread out, not so many houses that are close to town. And the train commute is a couple minutes longer. Their taxes are a little better than Larchmont because they have a bigger tax base there. They have 3 schools, then a middle school and a high school. So I have, I'm not going to go through all these towns, but if anybody wants, I have a booklet of about 12 different towns throughout Westchester with great summaries on them that will take you from the river towns to Scarsdale in the center, to the Sound Shore area over where I am. So happy to share that with you if you want after the call.
Greg, do you work in the river towns as well?
When I started out, I mean, I've sold a couple things there, but no, you won't be so as well served if I do it versus me referring, girl, stop that, versus me referring you to an agent who's really local. What's really important here is to work with a local agent. I can certainly open doors for you, but I can't tell you where the best park is in Irvington. I can't tell you the history of the house, if it's really overpriced or not. So I wouldn't really do you a service taking you over to an area that I'm not familiar with. But I certainly have colleagues who know it, and I can point you in the right direction.
Okay, great.
Can I ask a question, Greg? So if let's just say I'm a buyer and I'm interested in theory in Westchester, but I don't know the towns. How would you suggest that I start?
I would say reach out to me. Let me send you the booklet, which has a great map in it and everything about each of the towns. You'll get a really good feel for it. And ask me, I know the vibe of each town. The river towns are a little bit funkier than, say, a Scarsdale, which is more traditional town versus a Larchmont. So start, you can certainly reach out to me. And then, if you want specifics, I'll give you a local agent in each one to put you in touch with to get down to like the nitty gritty of each one.
Sounds good.
And I would say, the big thing about deciding about a town, I'll talk to you, and it's about your kind of personality and, what you want and don't want. If you want water, you want to be on this side of town, water they can swim in, you want to be over here. If you want views of the cliffs and you want a little different vibe, you may want the river towns. So all that goes into people's choices.
There's a question here about taxes, and I guess I would ask: are there places where the taxes are particularly high, or where the taxes are lower than And what does that mean for what's the trade-off?
So there's a lot of the towns here, including Larchmont, have been reassessed. So like in Larchmont, if Mrs. McGillicuddy bought her house 55 years ago and it was 3,000 square feet, she was paying taxes, really low taxes. If Mr. Smith next door bought a $3,000 house and renovated, and the town came out and opened permits, there was a huge disparity even in taxes from house to house. But over the past couple of years, all the towns have reassessed. And there are some differences in the taxes, but it's just there's no great tax area here. So some are a little less bad than others, just depending on each community. So for example, Rye has a low tax base because they have this huge Osborne school there that pays a big chunk of taxes. So in Rye, their taxes are like 1.56% ballpark of the purchase price, where Larchmont is roughly 2.5% at most. That's the general number around Westchester. Figure around 2.5% per million of assessed value, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people think sometimes if you go farther north, the taxes are much better, but they're not because they have a smaller tax base. So all of our taxes here have to fund the town and fund the school system. So all the money goes to paying the teachers and their dental plans and pensions. So the more people you have in some areas, the lower the taxes. That's reflected, for example, Rye has lower taxes than we do, but their houses are more expensive.
Right.
Right. So,
Thanks.
you know, a lot of ride buyers come to Larchmont because we have a lot of houses in the 1.5 range and the 999 range that they don't have there.
Right.
Greg, I have a question. Is most of the housing stock, is it turnkey? Is it renovated? Or do people have to, a lot of times, older people are selling and the house hasn't been touched for 30 years? What do you, like, for example, in Larchmont, like what is the typical housing stock like?
Yeah. You know, it's a much better mix than it was, say, when I joined in the recession, it was horrible time. So since 2008, a lot of houses have been bought, fixed up, and then they've had to move for one reason or another. So there's definitely a mix of, you know, done, turnkey stuff and, you know, needs a lot of work type of things. Again, reflected in price. So if you want to do a fixer-upper, you know, I'm bringing on a 4-bedroom colonial that's been in the 1,600 square feet, not huge, on 3 floors. It's been in the same family for 100 years. In Larchmont, walk the train, that's coming on for 609, you know, on Monday. So that's a super low price fixer upper. I mean, you could live in it, it's fine. You know, that house, same house all done, 1,600 square feet, all finished, will be, you know, 1.5. So,
Okay, interesting.
yeah.
Is it difficult at all dealing with cities in terms of doing renovations?
It's not bad at all. I mean, I renovated, I bought my house 1,800 square feet and put an addition on and renovated, and they are not that bad. You know, it's the usual feet dragging, going to planning meetings and the board meetings. But, you know, it took me, you know, the boards meet monthly. So, you know, it may take a couple months to get your plans approved and then 6 months to build it type of thing.
Okay. For like doing an addition.
Yeah. But yeah, so I work with a builder contractor. I mean, so I have tons of like people and contractors and plumbers, electricians.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing the inside of your house and not adding square footage, this is another question, your taxes are not going to go up. So
right.
If you do an addition, if you add square footage, your taxes will go up, but it won't go crazy. But Larchmont, back to taxes, I meant to say, Larchmont is fully assessed. So that means if the assessed value of the home you're buying is 1.5 and you buy it for 1.3, your taxes are going down next year. If you buy it for 1.7, your taxes are going up.
So if you buy I mean, if you buy if you buy a place and then renovate it, and let's just say you add on, I don't know, let's say $200,000.
Yeah.
Right? Then in one town, your taxes won't go up, but in the other town, your taxes might?
So if you're adding square footage, your taxes will go up.
Yeah.
If you're fixing up the inside, don't go up that much. Yeah, they're supposed to go up based on the amount of work you're doing, but they don't jam you up. Like your taxes, if they're 25, are not going to go to 40 like in 1 year.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
And just a side note, the way I came to know Greg is through a friend who is a really great interior decorator in Westchester.
Yeah.
And she does like project management for renovations. She helped me with mine actually, in Brooklyn, even though she's in Westchester. Well, you touched upon the rental market. But I think, is there also long-term and short-term rentals? So if someone wanted to maybe like test drive a town, is that possible? Yeah,
so we never had, you know, short-term rentals were never a big thing. There'd be a couple of summer rentals maybe. But now, all of a sudden, there's like tons of houses coming on for rent. So if you want to try on a town for a year, this is a good year to do it, because there's a lot coming on to rent, but you have to move fast because they're flying off the market. They're being rented sight unseen right now. So, you know.
So where are those people going? The people who are getting their houses rented out.
I don't know. I mean, some of them,
Berkshires?
yeah, Florida, I guess. I mean,
Florida,
we're thinking
yeah.
of going away for like July and August, so I might rent my house out for 2 months if somebody wants it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of people I guess, have other places to go to because there's just a ton of houses on for rent.
is there much of
Um,
a second house market?
Is there what?
The second house market. Let's just, like,
Oh, no, that's further upstate. So that's more like, upcountry type of thing.
yeah.
And those are hot right now too, in fact. So those markets struggled since the recession. They never came back. Our friends who have a house up in New Paltz, or Poughkeepsie, I think it is, who haven't come back. They have a house in Larchmont, but they haven't come back. So people are going further and further up.
Yeah.
Even
Definitely Hudson Valley is hot right now, for sure.
Yeah. And it's good up here. Like, again, I moved from the city. I loved it. I loved going out, drinking, and my biggest decision on was where to order from on Sunday morning, all hungover. But once you have kids, it's like, what's the point? You're no longer staying out that late, right? So the kids love it up here. Like, it's all about the kids. We have good restaurants. We all came from like New York and Brooklyn, so we demand good food to a certain degree. It's not the sticks. A lot of people think like, oh, all the moms and dads going to be weird goobers. Like, no, everyone mostly works in the city. My wife's in marketing. She has a bunch of friends on the train who work. Larchmont, not every mother stays home, that's for sure. So it's probably 50-50 in terms of working moms, stay-at-home moms, and dads, me.
Greg, can you touch upon commute a little bit and parking? Because I don't know if you need permits or parking passes. How does that work?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Commuting-wise, it's shorter getting from Larchmont to Grand Central than it would take me to go sometimes from the Upper West Side to like Midtown on the subway. Larchmont, Rye, Mamaroneck, Scarsdale, Bronxville, we're all 35 to 40 minutes on the train. And, it runs on a schedule, which is nice. And you get on the train, you're going to have your friends on the train. You answer a couple of emails, you watch an episode, on your phone, you read through emails, you look up, and you're in Grand Central. So it is not bad. In terms of getting to the train stations, now is probably the best time to come and buy a house because there's probably more spots at the station than there ever have been before in terms of people needing to go into the city. Some towns are worse than others. Larchmont's fine. There's always a spot. Rye is tough. But, everyone's got to work around. So they either some people do Vespas. Some people call the local cab to come pick them up every morning. Some people, their driveway close to the train station. No one's ever called me up after they moved here and been like, dude, like, it's horrible. We can't get to the station every morning. Like, this is really bad. So, well,
I think people who are commuting, or at least coming from the city, are familiar with a little bit of a struggle for commute. So
yeah. So my wife was freaked out when we moved here because of the commute, and like she learned quickly to like love the train. It's like peace and quiet. It gives her a chance to de-stress, for a half hour before she gets home to me. And she's got her train friends who they all hop on and, talk and catch up. So it's good.
nice. Have you seen kind of a big uptick in the market since COVID? I mean, in the last few weeks, or so? You spoke a little bit about this in the beginning, but inventory, does it remain low, or are there bidding wars? I mean, what are you seeing?
Yeah, no, there's bidding wars right now. So again, that's any house that's done in a good time, the houses that are done, done, fly quickly, right? Nobody wants to do work. Nobody wants to do work, especially kind of right now. So houses that are done, and are updated and they're what people are looking for will fly off the market.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to ask you is, I know I hear of a lot of people kind of venturing upstate, to Westchester they go to open houses and things. Why is it important to work with an agent who's familiar with the area?
Good question. And I meet a lot of people who come up here without brokers at each house. You're going to be harassed by every broker you meet at the open house. That's just annoying. But the real important thing is the broker works for you, and as a buyer you don't pay them anything, so why not use a broker? Find one that you like. A good broker knows everything about the market, so they're going to save you a lot of time and hassle. They're going to know about the areas and the houses, and the truth is the broker community is small. Like, I know every broker, so someone's gonna always represent the seller. So it behooves you to have somebody represent the buyer. And when somebody comes in unaccompanied, they're gonna try and make an offer without a broker and try and waive 2.5% of the commission. Like right away, I don't trust them. So you won't be trusted so much trying to do things on your own. And you won't see every house. Not every house has an open house. So I find it much more informative to go with a broker through the house for a private showing, without 1,000 people around. Then if you want to go back to the open house on Sunday and see it by yourself, that's good. But when it comes time to put the pedal to the metal, you want to go with a broker because you don't know about flooding, you won't know about taxes, you won't know about asbestos, all that good stuff, all that bad stuff.
And I would say probably you also help with negotiating, because if there are bidding wars, I can speak from experience here, it's helpful when you have an agent on the other side to kind of walk someone through it, right?
Yep. So I work at Houlihan Lawrence, which is the predominant brokerage here, in Westchester for the past 150 years. So I know every broker, like they trust me. I get deals because brokers want to work with me versus pain in the ass agent, who they hate from fighting for the past 10 years. So, having a broker when it's negotiating time, like I know when it's multiple bids, I know what the price is. I know what it's going to go for because I've done it like 100 times. So whether or not you want to pay that is one thing, but a broker should have a really good feel and have been through many different rodeos and wars to know what's going to happen.
Okay. Paul, are there any other questions?
Sorry, I'm just unmuting. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, hi. I don't see any other questions right now. If anybody has one, you can raise your hand. I think you covered a lot of stuff, Greg, and it was a really good presentation.
Hey, Lisa and Paul.
Hi, Shep.
Hey, Shep.
Hey, just wanted to let you know that I've been tuned in. I have not been able to have the video on, but I appreciate all of the great information that you're sharing, Greg, and nice to Zoom meet you and look forward to maybe some collaboration in the future.
Excellent. Thanks, Shep.
Of course. I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend, and thank you so much. And Lisa and Paul, thanks so much for arranging to have this set up. So
Thanks
definitely,
for tuning in.
Of course, I wasn't in there initially, so I think I missed a little bit, but I did get the bulk of it. So thank you.
Great.
Thanks. Well, it looks like that might be it. Thanks again, Greg. Again, we'll be continuing our webinar series on Sunday morning with Assembly Member Joanne Simon. And then next Wednesday, my brother actually will be here talking about, not real estate, talking about drug trials, vaccine trials, and how to interpret the news. And then another webinar we'll have at some point will be about new development and for people who are thinking about buying new development. So come on back, and thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you,
guys,
everyone.
for coming in.
Thank you, Paul and Lisa, and thank you, Greg.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. It was fun.